unfortunate lateral hate that happens to him. You know, Eric's main decking four Tidebinder mages, for example, usually just a 2/2 for 2, but happens to be quite the card in this matchup.
Yeah, and you know, Kent, again, another good news for Kent is he does have 4 copies of Mizium Mortars, so that is somewhat one way he can kill Tidebinder Mage. Plus, an overloaded Mizium Mortars is a way to deal with the elemental tokens from Master Wave. So there are definitely some options for Kent in this game, but I agree with you. It's not a matchup that I think he probably wanted to play against, but he's not in as bad shape as I'd say he was maybe this matchup was about a month ago.
All right, well, a pair of Temples is what starts the game for Kent. He's first play as a turn 3 Domri Rad. It's going to go ahead and plus. He, once again, does not find cards with his Domri Rad. Then we pass back to Eric Gray. Eric has played 2 islands and played a Tidebinder Mage. Was comfortable running that out against his red-green opponent, despite the fact that there was no target for it. And he will make the first attack. That puts Domri down to 2 counters.
And I got to say, Kent's got a pretty interesting hand here. The remaining cards are Palokranos, Xenagos, God of Revels, and Gorklan Rampager. Unfortunately, he doesn't have double green in play right now. So he can't cast the Palokranos next turn, although he did miss with Domri, so there's a chance it is a land on top, so it could be a Stomping Ground or a Forest.
Now the question is, how far behind will he be when that happens, though? Tidebinder Mage is met with Nightveil Spectre, and Eric in a good position with 5 Devotion to Blue on the board already, and Kent without a removal spell.
Wow, so it looks like he did draw a Mountain, and he's able to get a Rampager in play. He's got another Rampager in his hand. So.
Yeah, he drew a Rampager off Domri. He finally hit off that. His draw for the turn actually was Mizium Mortars, so he does now have a kill spell. He can maybe take Eric off some of this Devotion. And I'm going to think he's going to need that pretty quickly, as Eric could make quite the Master of Waves this turn.
Yeah, Master of Waves is going to net him 6 creatures. It is going to be tough for Kent to kind of beat that. Yeah, and that's exactly what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and Eric made a really interesting attack there. He opted to hit Domri down to 1 and forego the card draw trigger off Nightveil Spectre. I'm going to guess that's due to the fact that these decks really don't share many colors. Nightveil's not really drawing cards.
Yeah, and Domri's going to uptick again. And plus, he doesn't want to give Kent the option to just kind of kill the Nightveil Spectre with the creature.
Sure, absolutely. So no choice but to plus for Domri Rod there. And Kent plays another Gorklan Rampager. Almost more importantly, Kent did not hit a land there. A land would have allowed him to possibly curve into that overloaded Mizium Mortars. You said one of the ways to deal with these elemental tokens.
So big draw there for Eric. He drew a Tidebinder Mage, so that's going to be able to lock down one of the
really
Gorklan Rampagers. And he can actually have a pretty good attack here. He can tap down the Gorklan Rampager, activate Mutable, and attack with everything. But, oh, does he have another Master? Or,
he has a Bident. He's going to go ahead and draw a huge number of cards. And this is where that lack of second green mana is really probably hurting Kent. We said Palokranos, that's the answer that the Green-Red Monsters deck has to Master Waves. Kent has it in his hand, but he's unable to cast it, and he really does not get many turns to try to remove that Master. You know, this army will go to work real quick.
Yeah, I'd say that this game would be firmly in Kent's hand if he was able to just cast that Palokranos on turn 4. Unfortunately, this is one of the few times I've actually seen him get color screwed. He almost always has all the mana he needs, but this game, it's not working out for him. He's going to have to take, it looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah. And I think the Master of Veils is attacking Domri.
Yeah, an all-out swing here. So Master Waves will take Domri off the battlefield. Both Tidebinder and Elemental Token will get eaten by Gorklan Rampagers, but that's still 5 Elementals and a Nightveil to make it through. That's 12 damage and 6 additional cards for Eric Gray.
So pretty good turn there for Eric. And he even gets a Temple with the Nightveil
Oh, wow,
Spectre,
he gets a card that he can play.
He can play it here.
So 6 cards drawn. And, you know, this is where there become worries, you know, that next turn Eric will do something like Nykthos up a Cyclonic Rift, play a couple rapid hybridizations. There's a lot of really bad things that could happen for Kent here.
And good thing he hit the Temple of Abandon, because he actually didn't hit a land off those 6 cards.
He missed a land off 6 cards? Oh, wow. You're absolutely right.
So, but either way, he's got a lot of Tidebinder Mages in his hand.
Yeah, plenty of things to discard, like a second Bident. That'll go ahead and get binned.
Probably discard a Jace too. I'm not sure Jace is going to be that much of a factor.
Looks like he's not going to go ahead with Nightveil Specters. It's going to be a Cloudfin Raptor and a Frostburn Weird as the remaining discards.
So yeah, Kent had a really bad turn last time. He didn't draw a 5th mana. If he drew a 5th mana, then the 6th land would actually be an out for him because he has that Mortars in his hand, so he wouldn't overload it. But Kent really left with no options here and forced to concede game 1.
Yeah, he was unable to find a way to that overloaded Mortars in time, and that really just shows off how good Master Waves is against decks that are light on removal. Remember, Kent's answers really are overloaded Mortars and Pelugranos. He actually had both those answers in his hand, but Master Waves presents such a potent threat that you don't just need the answer. You need the answer, and you need it immediately, and Kent didn't have the second half of that.
Yeah, so Kent loses to Master of the Waves, and it's really the Night Veil Spectre into Master that did it. I mean, Master of the Waves, if you're getting 4 tokens, he probably can race there, but having to deal with 6 tokens, I mean, just couldn't overcome that. After board, though, things, I'm not going to say, actually, before we get to
the sideboard, we are in the final, so we're going to do one final giveaway, bringing you back into the booth. This is the big giveaway. This is the 12 months of Star City Games Premium. And so, rules are still the same. We're going to ask you a question. Make sure you tweet the correct answer with the hashtag SCG Premium. And the winner at the end of the tournament will be selected for 12 months of Star City Games Premium. So one of the things we've been talking about reprints. That was what we went with for Revoke Existence. Now, there's another card. It's a reprint. It's an Eric Gray's deck. This is a little bit of trivia. This card was actually originally an uncommon. It is currently now a rare in his deck. We're wondering what uncommon from Rise of the Eldrazi was reprinted in M14 and is a 2-of in Eric Gray's deck. It's an interesting one.
In his main deck?
It is in his main deck. So, yeah, there's a little bit of homework to do there, but this is for a year, so absolutely. I think it is only deserving that you may have to look up something.
I think I know what the answer is.
All right. You had been playing for a while. I know that I actually used this card at a tournament as some uncommons from Rise, and I remember I played it at an FNM opponent was like, wait, that was an uncommon? Hold on.
Is it rare now?
It's a rare now, yeah.
I definitely think I proxied on a lot of these cards.
Yes. I looked through my proxy box. I was like, hey, you guys, you're rares now. Okay. But let's go back to the match. You were talking about what is Kent going to have to do to get this?
I think, I'm not going to say it gets that much better for him after board because he still doesn't have an answer to Master of the Waves. But he does have 4 copies of Mistcutter Hydra. So that's going to be huge. He also has 2 Plummets and 2 Arbor Colossus. And I expect all of those to come in just because being able to deal with the Night Veil Spectre is huge, not only because, you don't have many ways to answer flyers, but getting rid of 3 Devotion is great because you want to just make sure the Master Veils don't come down for more than like 4 or 5. So being able to deal with a Night Veil Spectre is huge there.
Well, it's the same principle, right? Mono blue, don't be fooled by the number of islands they're playing. They're still an aggro deck. If you can keep the board clear, you're probably safe. Once they start getting 3 or 4 creatures out, you're probably not safe.
Yeah. So I definitely like those 8 cards coming in. Everything else, though, Unravel the Aether, I can see that coming in too, just because the 2 cards that Green Red probably cares about most are Detention Sphere and Thassa. Those are probably the 2 main reasons that Unravel the Aether is in his sideboard. So I wouldn't be surprised if he brings that card in, just because Thassa can be very problematic at times.
It's interesting. It's actually the activated ability on Thassa that's great in this matchup, as opposed to a lot of matchups where it's the Scry one that you care about. I think it shows the diversity of the card. Kent needs to he doesn't have enough removal to remove all of the mono blue creatures, so eventually his plan is to assemble a wall or race back.
Yeah.
And Thassa really makes that difficult for him.
Yeah. And the real question is, what is Kent going to board out? Now, I have to think that the 4-mana Planeswalkers aren't ideal in this matchup. So Chandra, Xenagos, not really where you want to be against mono blue. I also think Xenagos God of Revels might not be necessary either. I would say those 4 cards are probably things I would look at boarding out. And then it comes down to, what do you want to take out? I'm not sure how much Stormbrat Dragon is kind of needed in this matchup.
It's expensive.
It's really expensive. And you're boarding in a card like Mistcutter Hydra, which is basically your pseudo dragon for this matchup. So I kind of like swapping dragon for Mistcutter Hydras.
No, I completely agree. I think when you're evaluating the cards in the monsters deck, especially in this matchup, you need to think about how fast they have an impact on the board. Stormbreath Dragon is a 4/4 for 5. That's not it's just a more expensive Gore Clan Rampager in a lot of ways. And I think you said, especially, the Xenagos, the Planeswalker, Xenagos the Reveler, it's great at providing value, but it's not. The turn you play it, it's a 2/2 haste for 4. And that's really that's not a good enough level of conversion for a matchup that needs to be this quick.
Yeah, the problem with the Planeswalkers and Xenagos God of Revels is this matchup can be very tempo-based. Mono Blue, one of the ways it's going to beat you is by getting ahead of you in tempo. And the Planeswalkers and the Xenagos God of Revels, it really doesn't help you there. And then as far as Stormbreath Dragon, it's obviously a powerful threat, but Mistcutter Hydra effectively serves the same role, and you can't really board out Pyrocranos in this matchup. Gorkhan Rampager can definitely help you win games. And then Corsair Krufix just helps you continue to make your mana, which is what you want to be at when you have 4 copies of Mizium Mortars and Mistcutter Hydra in your deck.
Not to mention, a 2/4 is actually pretty good against a lot of the cards that Mono Blue's playing.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of expect that kind of to be Kent's sideboard strategy.
All right, so now Eric's sideboard strategy, he's up a game. This is a matchup that you traditionally Mono Blue has liked. We do see in his board he has a rapid hybridization, which you said you'd expected him certainly to use. Is there anything else that he actually needs? Cyclonic Rift, perhaps?
I think it's really pretty simple for Eric. I think he's just going to board in 2 Cyclonic Rifts and a hybridization for 2 Jace and the 2 Domestications, and then maybe 1 Bident or 1 Master or 1 Jace, whatever he thinks is worse.
You can't domesticate these monsters. They're far too big for that.
He might board in a Dissolve too. So he might board in the Dissolve, a hybridization, 2 Rifts for 2 Domestications, and then either 2 Bidents or 2 Jace, whatever he thinks is worse in the matchup.
Now, is there any value if green-red monsters are starting to play cards like Corsair of Krufix? Does domestication gain value here?
I still don't think it's worth it, just because that's effectively your only really good target. And you don't even know if they're playing cards like Boon Satyr, so it's like there are times where it could just not be good. And yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure I'd bring it in there, because on the draw it's pretty bad.
Sure.
On the play, sure, yeah. If you can steal a Corsair, it's probably okay. But it's not going to win you games. It's just going to be kind of annoying for the green-red deck. The way the green-red deck's going to beat you is kind of by casting giant Mistcutter Hydras or just overwhelming you with Domri Red early on and keeping cards off the board for you.
All right. Well, Kent Ketter's down to 6 cards. He is on the play here. Eric has kept on 7. We'll see if he is going to keep a 6. It looks like we have the game.
Well, he's got lands. I can see at least 1 forest in there. So he's got lands and spells, so he's okay.
All right, let's see what he brings to the fight. We're going to lead off on a Mutavault. Looks like he has a fair number of lands. He has 2 mountains, a forest, a stomping ground. It's fair to say he has almost all lands here.
Wow, so it looks like Eric did bring in the domestications, and Kent does have the Corsair. So the exact situation that you're talking about is probably going to come up, and Kent will not be happy.
And Kent's going to go ahead and he tried to swing a turn 2 Mutavault, and Eric went ahead and rapid hybridized it.
I like that play a lot, especially if we were going to see a Tidebinder Mage here.
That's so gross. I think it will be an actual Stone Rain. We don't. We see a Mutavault on Eric's side, so he's actually going to take a little bit of damage off this 3/3.
Yeah, but I think he's okay with that. Again, LDing your opponent is pretty good. So now he effectively, it's all about tempo, so he effectively stole the turn back. He's going to sacrifice some life points, but he's taking the turn back. And again, with that, having that domestication, it's actually going to be pretty huge for him, because he could steal the 3/3 token now, which gives him a way to block Mistcutter Hydra potentially.
Yeah, Kent shipped a card to the bottom there off tempo, still trying to find some action. Eric makes Thassa for the turn, and we actually see that Eric has a pair of domestications in his hand. So it's not just. It's possible these didn't just keep the 2 in. He may have boarded up to all 4.
Yeah. So subtly, I am definitely regretting saying domestication
the
is
words
not good
here.
because it is going to be a blowout this time.
In fact, the second domestication's really good here.
Yeah, he's actually going to domesticate the Corsair here, and then
draws
that's
the island.
game.
He needed to scry to draw the island. However, that happened, and now we do see Corsair no longer is a feral green creature, has been domesticated as a pet for the blue mage.
So now he's 2 devotion closer to activating Thassa. And, maybe you're right. Maybe the fact that these decks are playing Corsair now, it's right to bring in domestication, because it's really good blocker. And the gaining life, too, is just...
the little card advantage. I mean, people said Domri was good with Corsair. How about Thassa with Corsair?
Yeah, Thassa, Corsair. Who would have thought?
I mean, I'll say that to me seems pretty good.
I think we got a new deck here.
All right.
I think we're building a new deck right now.
All right, land and play tapped. 2 lands tapped. That's Scavenging Ooze for Kent. Yet another domestication target.
Yeah, and there are no creatures in the graveyard, so he won't be able to make it big enough to kind of dodge the domestication. But again, Yeah, you still probably take. Yeah, you probably take the ooze there. You don't take the 3/3.
No, that was something I want to say Eric a little knew. He drew the island off the top. He flipped an island on the top of the deck. He decided to play the island from his hand rather than from the top of his deck.
I think he wants to maybe just scry that next turn, but
We could
yeah,
just, just cast it, right?
Yeah, I agree. Again, the Courser.
He hasn't played with this card
He doesn't
before.
own the Courser. Yeah, he doesn't actually own the Courser. So.
Yeah, he's gonna domesticate scavenger.
And the domestication's on top of the flavor box, so maybe he just didn't read it.
Yeah, and then now Thassa is online thanks to the 2 domestications, hits Kent Ketter down to 15.
So Eric actually has 4 power worth of green creatures in play.
Worth of
So
Kent's
even
cards.
if Kent draws a land and casts Mistcutter Hydra, Eric can actually profitably block it.
Oh wow, so you're right, even the pro blue creature no longer good enough here. I mean, you're almost at the point where Kent is going to have to Mizium Mortars. If he draws one, he'd have to Mizium Mortars away his own cards.
Yeah, he might just have to cast. He might go for just Mistcutter Hydroneer for a 4/4 as a blocker, almost, and hope to draw another one. Or maybe he wants to wait one more turn to make it a 5/5 so that Eric can actually just double block it and kill it. Or did he? Oh, he did draw. Yep, he drew Unravel the Aether there, so he did board it in.
Okay.
Now the question is, does he want to go after the Thassa or does he want to go after the domestication?
There's so many good targets. Normally you'd say you'd unravel the Thassa, but I'm almost thinking he needs to get his own Courser back. He doesn't have any business in his hand, and Courser will help him find better cards. That said, Thassa's going to be a really big problem. You'd have to assume that if you unravel the domestication, that Eric would just find another 2 blue mana symbols on the very next turn and hit again for 5. I think Kent doesn't think he has the option. Thassa's going to be the unraveled one.
Yeah, so not a bad turn for Kent. He's able to unravel the Thassa, and next turn he'll get a 5/5 Mistcutter Hydra.
But as you said, Eric can actually block that for a while. He's got some green creatures.
No, he's fine because he's got 2 Mutavaults under there as well. So
he can kill that.
Yeah, he can actually block and kill the Mistcutter Hydra fairly easily, and his hand's still really good. He's got a Tidebinder Mage and a Nightveil Spectre in his hand. So Eric's still in firm position right here.
And that'll be a pass back to Eric. So we see now an island on top of his deck. He's going to have to draw it. Next card is another island.
And now,
he's going to play the free land off the Courser. Puts him up to 16, and we see Rapid Hybridization.
And that's a good draw there because one of the few outs that Kent had was a Polychronos. So now Eric has protection against that.
Yeah, Kent still has a lot of life points to work with, but right now Eric is just drawing all the cards.
Yeah. Kent's still got a lot of life, but Nightveil Spectre is going to start coming in soon. Tidebinder Mage can lock down to 3/3. So he might not even cast Tidebinder Mage here yet. But he looks like he is going to go for it.
I think he's just pushing the damage while he's ahead. He's going to do that, activate both Mutavaults, and attack for 8. That puts Kent down to 7.
So the Tidebinder Mage can't attack, right?
Yeah, we'll catch that. But the other creatures sure can, and that's 8 power worth of guys. We do see an activated Mutavault from Kent. He certainly can trade it, but he is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, so I think he's hoping to draw Mortars here.
Yep, he does not draw. And I think that's a heads-up way to play it. Hoping to draw to the Mortars. He does not. He draws to another basic. The only play he has is a large Mistcutter Hydra. That's Hydra on 5.
No, so he's just gonna play it as a blocker here.
So he puts Hydra on 3, then leaves up the mana for Mutavault.
Yeah, he needs to make sure he has enough creatures to block it because Eric might have lethal there. He has 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he has 5 attackers, so he needs to have 2 blockers. So
right,
Eric doesn't have a good
alive.
attack just yet. He has that rapid hybridization still. He's got hybridization. He's got another Mutavault in his hand and Nightveil Spectre. So even though he doesn't have a great attack this turn, he will have a lethal attack next turn unless Ken draws something. So let's see what he decides to do. If he tries to get a little aggressive here, he can lose a creature to the Mistcutter Hydra, but he'll get rid of Kent's Mutavault. And it looks like that is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to attack with everything here. And 2, 4, 6 damage is going to get through, it looks like. Dropping Kent to 1.
Yeah, the swing is 2 Mutavaults, Tidebinder Mage, Scavenging Ooze, and Courser of Krufix. 2 of those cards are green cards that originally belonged to Kent. The Hydra's going to block the Tidebinder. That will free up his 3/3 for next turn. The Mutavault will trade with Scavenging Ooze. He will go ahead and take 6 off the 2 Mutavaults and the Courser. So Kent is down to 1. And as you saw, for the land return was a 3rd Mutavault from Eric. And he's going to go a step farther. He's going to save his own Scavenging Ooze by rapid hybridizing the Mutavault.
Yeah, so Kent will get a another token out of the deal,
Now,
but Eric doesn't lose his creatures.
that doesn't actually accomplish. It's either they both lost a creature or they both got a creature. He doesn't actually gain any traction by making that play.
Yeah, he's still going to drop Kent to 1. Mortars is still an out here, but Kent does not draw Mortars. And yeah, I agree with you. I think you're probably better off just
right, if either they both lose a creature or they both don't lose a creature. But he spent a card that way. Nonetheless, things look great for Eric Gray.
Yeah, and
by
Mortars
giving
there
him
would've
that
been great.
creature, actually it meant that if Kent, he gave Kent a Mortars out by giving him that by rapid hybridizing. Because then suddenly he could block all the Mutavaults.
No, he had a yeah, that's true.
Now he has 3 blockers. But the Mortars wasn't drawn. This should be it for Eric Gray. He activates everything. And there you have it. Your Star City Games Standard Open champion piloting Mono Blue Devotion is none other than Eric Gray, taking down Kent Ketter in a mere 20 minutes in the finals.
So this, we saw a lot of new Born of the Gods cards, and Kent's deck definitely took advantage of Born of the Gods more than some of the other decks we've seen this weekend. But in the end, Mono Blue Devotion is still one of the top decks in the format, and it wins this Open.
Yeah, Mono Blue Devotion piloted by Eric Gray. Actually, one of the few decks that was playing no cards out of Born of the Gods. But fear not,
Boo.
I wouldn't say, I know, boo, but let's take a look at Kent's deck. Kent playing many cards out of Born of the Gods. Unravel the Aether, Courser of Krufix, Xenagos, God of Revels, not to mention a Splash Temple of Malice. So I think full on almost 10 cards out of the new set in his deck list.
And it's funny that if you look at the top dog, so to speak, of Standard, Mono Blue, Mono Black, Blue White, Mono Blue probably got the least from Born of the Gods. Mono Black got the second most, and then Blue White probably got the most from the existing archetypes, from the 3 major Tier 1
right.
decks. So yet Mono Blue still is able to win this tournament.
Well, it just